Everybody, how goes it? Hope you're all well. Well, this is the TV edition of the Nations Cup round 7, and it's from Suzuka. It's a 16 lap race. Had to use all the tyre compounds, soft, medium and hards. Rolling start as usual. The live onboard footage, which included the qualifying, is the video a couple before this if you wanted to watch that. I had a feeling most of the cars in the field would have been the Nissan GTR, which you can see there. But I went for the Porsche, and that was purely due to the fact that I knew the Porsche was going to be good on tyres and fuel in this race. It is a power circuit, so the Nissan it's not very good on tyres. And it was going to struggle in the corners, so I was hoping I would be able to capitalise on that. See there? So qualifying didn't go too bad, not like it usually does, purely because of the last chicane on the circuit. As you'll find out in a couple of minutes, it wasn't to be an issue. If you start in the middle of that chicane, then you're going to struggle. If you start after it, great. If you start before it, not too bad. But in the middle of it, or just entering it, then yeah, you're going to struggle. But luckily, we started the race as we were just coming out of it, which meant the car in front had managed to get away, and the car behind, was car in 12th, was going to be nowhere near us. So in theory we had a free passage down into turn 1, which is always good. So we started now. So the car behind started right in the middle of that chicane on cold tyres. So you can see already he's quite a way behind us. So I wasn't worried about turn 1 carnage at all. So the other sister Porsche there going a bit wide in the first corner, which allowed us through up into the top 10. We started to catch that Nissan in front quite quickly. I didn't know what tyre he was on, obviously, but as you can see, he's very slow in the corners, and we caught him up quite a bit, and he was struggling to get away from us. And I quickly found out that I needed to get past him as quick as possible, because I think he was going to start holding us up. I think the fact that I was right behind him through those first few corners just made him a little bit nervous, and we do manage to get past him shortly. So he just went a bit wide there, so I managed to get up the inside. But I was worried about him coming back at me on this straight, due to the power that's in that Nissan. For some reason I managed to pull out a bit of a gap. behind him, going wide again there. So I thought this was going to be an interesting corner. There were 3 abreast in front and I had nowhere to go, but they managed to sort themselves out. And luckily nobody had a moment and took anybody out. But because of that Nissan's speed in a straight line, he managed to get back in front of me. But as you can see again, I started to catch him up again very quickly through the S's. But he was being hampered a bit from the car in front of him. There was a bit of a tap there. Nobody's fault really. But it did allow the sister Porsche through. So I was hoping they were going to start fighting, because if I was able to catch the Nissan, then the Porsche in front of me surely could as well. So I was just happy to stay in his slipstream for the next few corners. And I was wary of that Beetle as well that was behind us, because they are good in the corners but they suffer on the straights. So the strategy was, in theory, to do a 3-stop. I was going to do 6 laps softs, then another 6 laps on the softs, then 3 on the mediums, and then do the 1 remaining lap on the hards. That was my thoughts going into the race. So they had a little bit of a moment there and I managed to get past them both, putting ourselves up into 8th. But unfortunately, because the car beside me there had the slipstream of Mr. Costum, I couldn't get past him, so I had to tuck him behind him. But we were all over the back of the Merc there. Trying to find my way through, trying to figure out where his weak points were, if any. I was up alongside him then, and I did think about going for the mood, and he did give me space, but in these lower splits you never know whether they're just going to turn in on you. So if you're not sure, err on the side of caution. Which I did. But on the live version of this, I did thank him for his awareness and the clean driving. So he did know I was there, and he did know I was going for a move. Don't know why he greyed out there. He did seem to slam on the brakes for some reason, which allowed Mr. Tom back up into 7th. I'm not quite sure what he was doing. He slammed on in the middle of a straight for some reason. It doesn't matter how good you are at following a car. Nobody expects you to brake into the middle of a car, in the middle of a straight. So there's a bit of carnage going up and in front of us there. So we managed to get up into 6th. See, they're still fighting in the background. I don't know really what was going on there. So I was hoping Mr. Tom's tyres were warmed up enough for him to pull us forward a bit. But the strategy that I did go for originally, 6-6-3-1, was purely down to the fact that although it turned out to be quite a spread field in the in what cars were being used, I originally assumed a lot of the cars would be the Nissans. So that's the strategy, that's the reason behind the strategy that I chose. And as you can see there, he's slow in the corners, so that's where the Porsche was outstanding. So he went a bit wide there into that corner, so I managed to get up the inside, which I was happy about, because I could start pulling away, hopefully, as long as I could hold him off on the straights. But yeah, the theory behind the strategy was because I thought that the majority of the cars would be the Nissans, that they would start struggling on their tyres quite early on into the race. And as you see the race progress, you'll see that come to true. Of course, I don't know what tyres most of these guys are on, but whatever tyre you're on in the Nissan, if you don't look after them, they're going to wear out very quickly. So starting from 11th, I believe this is lap 4, I was very happy with the position. So you can see there the Nissan, a good example there of the Nissan struggling with the tyres, even though he was heading for the pits himself. So I assume he was probably not on softs. He was probably started on the mediums, because I think this was lap 4. So 3 or 4 laps on the mediums is about right. So I was definitely happy with the position at the moment, and I had clean air in front of me as well. So I was just going to try and get my head down as much as I could. My tyres were still looking good. So if this was lap 4, I was supposedly going to pit in 2 laps time. But my tyres were very good still. They were only just and so starting to show signs of wear. So on lap 5, I was thinking, yeah, supposed to be pitting at the end of the next lap, but we're in a good position, starting to pull out a gap to 5th. I think at this point we were probably about 3 seconds in front of him, and I believe, if I remember rightly, the guy in front, 3rd place, was about 5 or 6 seconds in front, but we were catching him. So I was starting to think now and look down the field as to where the other cars were, as to whether it was worth coming in on lap 6. See, cars were starting to come in there, so we moved up to 3rd. So again, the car in front of me possibly was on the medium tyre, the Merc there, coming out back out into 4th. But I was still doing fast sectors, and the lap times were still good. A couple of tenths here and there slower than my fastest lap, obviously, because the tyres were starting to wear out. But at this moment in time I was thinking, what shall I do? Shall I come in? Shall I stay out? I think the pit lane loss was roughly 5 seconds. If you just changed your tyres and didn't refuel, I think you can get out with about, I think the pit lane loss was probably about 3.5 seconds. But at the time, before watching the replay back, I was thinking that the pit lane loss was roughly about 6. So I had time in my pocket really. Right, okay, so that was actually lap 6. So I did decide in the end to pit, but I was originally going to pit for softs, but I decided to pit for mediums. So a slight change of strategy. I had a bit of a splash and dash, so I put a little bit of fuel in. Didn't fill it up to so as it'd last me till the end. Just put a little dash in. So we're on medium tyres now, which was so I had a change of strategy. So as you can see, we came into the pits in 3rd, and it drops us down to 6th, but 4th and 5th are only 3 seconds down the road. So the pit lane loss with a change of tyre and a bit of splash of fuel was roughly about 5 seconds, I think. So I was glad I was out in clean air. The cars behind also must have pitted because they're nowhere to be seen. So it was good. You know, I could just head down and concentrate without any worry about anyone coming up behind us. And we were slowly catching the cars in front. I was just and so coming into their slipstream there. And so this is lap 7. If I remember rightly, these two guys pit on this lap, so I assume they were still on the soft tyre. And also, if I remember rightly, it was an unlucky pit entry for Mr. Tom. I don't know if it'll show it on the replay. Didn't quite see it, but he did hit the the entrance to the pit and he was stopped on the apex. So that moves us up into 4th. So those guys must have just changed tyres. Well, certainly the car that come out in 5th, because he's only like 3 seconds behind me now, and he went into the pits probably 2.5 seconds in front of me. But I wasn't too worried because, well, they'd done 7 laps there, sorry. So I reckon they did an extra lap on the soft tyre. So I assume now that they'll be on mediums, which is the same as me. Yes, mine are a lap older than theirs, but on the same tyre. We should be fairly evenly matched. I had a big moment there, dropped a wheel. Nearly sent myself to Narnia, but luckily I caught the car and it was time to settle down, head down, start concentrating again, find my rhythm again and try getting more consistent laps in, which I was managing to do. I think the fastest lap was a 2:03 that I did, which is pretty good in race conditions. I remember as well the lap time on these medium tyres was only, I think 3.45 tenths on average above my fastest lap on soft tyres. So a part of that was me getting used to the track and the car, but doing those sort of lap times on mediums, I was quite happy. It did tell me that I could have gone quicker on the softs. I don't know why I was getting the blue flag there. That guy's behind me. So I was just trying to push as much as I could here in clean air, nothing to worry about. Can't do qualifying laps because I'm on medium tyres, but I was hoping to do as close to as possible as qualifying laps as I could. Of course, with them being medium tyres, they weren't showing any signs of wear at all. I managed 6 laps on the softs, and they were, if I'd have done another lap on the soft, if I'd have done lap 7 on the softs, I'd have been fairly struggling, but they were still holding out just. So I knew from that on the mediums I could do at least 9-10 laps if I wanted to, and still be fairly consistent with the lap times. So the Nissan behind, it was roughly 3.5 seconds. On the straights it went down to like 2.8, purely due to the power of that machine, but through the S's and the other twisty bits I managed to get the time back up to roughly 3.5 seconds. So I knew we were probably on exactly the same tyre, and as long as I didn't drop a wheel and make any silly mistakes, kept my head down, make sure I hit my braking points and the apexes, I knew he wasn't going to catch me. So I was just pushing as much as I could with a safety aspect in mind. So I've lost count now of what lap we're on. We must be on lap 8 or 9, something like that. No, probably lap 9. Tyres were probably just starting to show signs of wear, but we'd moved up into 3rd, so I knew that the strategy that I'd changed to on lap 6 was probably the right one. Yeah, I believe this is probably lap 10, because I think we've done 3 laps now, haven't we, on these medium tyres. So in theory, if I'd have stuck to the original strategy, I'd have been coming into pit now for another set of softs. But I decided to stay out, as I was building an even bigger gap to the car behind. You can see he's more or less out of view now. In fact, he is out of view there. So I think at this point, I don't know if he had a bit of a moment, dropped a wheel or something, but I remember he was roughly 5.5 seconds behind. So I knew it was a difficult decision, because I knew that I had time to pit for another set of softs, and I knew that if I did do that pit stop, I would have got out in front of 4th place, so I'd have probably come back out in 3rd. So I had the time in my pocket to do it, and I knew that if I was on softs, I would obviously pull away from him quite easy. There would have been no worry about him trying to get past me. I'd have been able to pull away. But I erred on the side of caution and stayed out on the mediums. So I think at this point in the race, either strategy 1 or the strategy 2, which I chose to do, both would have worked from this point. But I still believe I made the right choice of going onto the mediums at the first pit stop, because if I'd have come out, there was a risk of me coming out in traffic, which would have wasted the soft tyre. Luckily I didn't, so in theory both strategies would have worked in where we ended up on track. but when you're making decisions on the fly, it's best to err on the side of caution. So as you can see there, we're in clean air, there's no one anywhere near in front of us, and there's no one anywhere near behind us. So I was quite happy. In fact, I was very happy. I was 3rd place, starting from 11th, with no pressure, able just to concentrate, picking my lines, picking my braking points, hitting those apex. And it did show in the times, in the lap times that I was doing. The majority of the lap times were 2.2s, 2.3s, 2.4s. When the tyres started to wear out a bit, you know, I was doing 2.4s, 2.5s. But the majority of the laps were like 2.3s. So Mr. Teddy there in 1st place. So at this point we've moved up into 2nd. So the Merc there coming out in 3rd. Probably on the medium tyre. Either that or he's finishing the race on the hards. So I knew we weren't going to stay in 2nd at this point. And I knew there was going to be no chance of me catching 1st place, because he's just come out on fresh tyres. So it was a bit of status quo really, being able to stay where we were. So the plan now was to stay on these medium tyres till the end of lap 15. Come into the pits, put the hard tyres on for 1 lap. Yeah, I think that Merc behind me, judging by that slide that he got out of that corner, is on the hard tyre, and he's going to finish on the hard tyre. So in theory that was a bad decision from him. You only really want to be doing 1 lap on the hard tyre. But as you can see, 3rd and 4th are only probably about 3 seconds behind, and we needed to pit for tyres and a dash of fuel. But as you'll see, when we do pit, I nearly threw it all away. I'll leave that little bit of excitement and explain what happened when we get there. So yeah, they're probably 3.5 to 4 seconds behind us at the moment. So it looks like we're going for another lap here. So this could be lap 13, 14. Mr. Teddy was just and so in show still. I think he was about 8 seconds in front. And we weren't catching him. He was staying quite consistently 8.5, 9 seconds in front. He was in the Nissan, so the delta was fluctuating a bit. You know, I'd catch him through these corners here. I'd make up like half, about 6/10 maybe, but then he'd eat that back very easily on these straights. So it was a bit of cat and mouse. But I was starting to drop the cars behind. I think they were roughly 5 seconds behind now. So I can't remember what lap this is. If we pick this lap, it's lap 15. If not, this must be round about lap 14. But the mediums were starting to show signs of they were wearing out, and I was starting to lose time. I think this was lap 14. So they were starting to wear out a bit. see first place just going into turn 1 there. Roughly 8 seconds ahead, I think. I do recall as well, during the early parts of this stint on the medium tyres, I was doing pretty close to my best time on softs. Not sure where the 3rd and 4th place cars have gone. It's messed me up a bit. I can't remember which lap we're on now. I thought this was close to like lap 14, 15, but maybe not. But even still, I knew we weren't going to be able to hold on to second. See them coming in the background a bit there. So that tells me that these tyres are starting to go. Yeah, here they come. So they were starting to catch me due to my tyres starting to wear out. I was starting to struggle a bit. So I think I've lost about 2 seconds on this lap alone due to tyre wear. And that car there's the Beetle, so it's bound to catch you up in the corners if you've got worn tyres, because those Beetles are so grippy in the corners. But like I said earlier, they lose out in the straights. So here we go. This is the last pit stop for the hard tyre. So I've already lost 1 position there. Now I should be going now. But when I entered the pit lane, I got a message on the chat which I decided to read, and I ended up filling the car up right to the brim more or less, which lost me 6 seconds, 6 or 7 seconds. But luckily, so I went into the pits in second, but 3rd and 4th place passed me before I actually had changed the tyres, so I was going to come out in 4th regardless. So that was a bit of a sigh of relief, really. I thought I'd thrown at least third place away, but luckily I hadn't. I was going to come out in fourth regardless of whether I'd put the right amount of fuel in or not. So I was hoping now that I was on cold hard tyres, that due to that catastrophic mistake, that it wasn't going to pull me into the German behind me there in 5th place and lose another position. But luckily he was roughly 1.7, 1.8 seconds behind, and luckily once these hard tyres had warmed up, which was about just over halfway around this last lap, we started to pull out a bit of a gap again. But towards these last few corners I was easing off dramatically. It's like I wasn't going to risk it. It was like, this was the second to last corner, all I had to do now was make it through the chicane. And I think he ended up like 6/10 behind us. He was probably rubbing his hands together thinking, oh, I've got this Dotbags here. But not to be. So there we go. Crossing the line in 4th from 11th on the grid. I was very happy with that. It was a positive DR result. I got 1,000 DR points for that, and 62 points for the race. So yeah, extremely happy. Couldn't have gone much better, really. Maybe if I'd have done that extra stint on the softs, like I now know that I could have, you know, Mr. Hindsight as it is, maybe I could have secured 3rd. I might have been able to pull out a decent enough gap in that last stint before going onto the hard tyre to be able to come back out in 3rd. And luckily the mistake in the pits on the last stop there didn't change the end result of the race for the strategy that I chose. So yeah, I was quite happy. And as you know, positive results, positive DR, we're not going again. So that was the end of end of Nations for this week. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. The next video coming up will be the TV edition of the Mazda Touring Car Championship, and that was from the Kyoto Driving Park Miyabi. I think that's how you pronounce it anyway. Anyway, that'll be the next video coming out, probably tomorrow. So thanks for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. I'll be seeing you.